It was just after dawn on a bitter winter morning when a quiet update on the palace's official website sent a ripple through the United Kingdom and across the Atlantic. There was no press conference, no royal appearance, no fanfare, just a subtle line added in early December that sparked widespread astonishment. For years, the silence surrounding the youngest Sussex children had fueled theories, speculation, and wild narratives, from whispers about missing ceremonies and unseen documents to conjecture born from the gaps that modern digital culture eagerly fills. This morning, however, felt almost cinematic. Mist draped the towers of Buckingham Palace, frost shimmered on the lawns, and the first rays of winter sunlight glinted off the gilded gates as the update reached royal reporters, analysts, and early morning broadcasters preparing for live segments. Newsrooms buzzed, editors straightened in surprise, and producers rushed to adjust their scripts. Because for the first time the palace appeared to address the swirl of speculation directly. The clarity of the wording and the firmness of the message suggested a shift in how the monarchy intended to navigate a digital era prone to distortion, especially regarding children. Behind the calm phrasing lay tensions shaped by private concerns, differing instincts, and the competing pressures within an institution accustomed to managing both tradition and scrutiny. To understand why this long-awaited update stirred such intense reaction, one must follow the quiet storm that had been building around Archie and Lilibet long before the winter morning when the palace finally chose to speak. A storm born from years of unanswered questions, fragmented appearances, shifting expectations, and a public eager to interpret every silence. Wrapped in tradition, the arrival of royal babies usually follows a familiar script, but when Archie was born, the Sussexes chose privacy instead, and although the palace confirmed the birth, the customary layers of ritual were replaced with a far more controlled approach. Months later, when Lilibet came into the world overseas, the pattern repeated a brief announcement, a quick message of joy, and then silence. For an institution built on ceremony and public milestones, this new rhythm created a vacuum that was not malicious or mysterious, simply unusual. Yet in an age of relentless commentary, unusual swiftly becomes suspect, and every absence turned into an opening for speculation. Every missing detail the seed of a new theory as photographs were dissected, lighting scrutinized, timelines questioned, and gestures overinterpreted. Inside the palace, senior figures in this fictional account perceived the storm forming, but disagreed on how to confront it. A restrained Charles favored dignity and silence. William, keenly aware of digital acceleration, warned of the speed at which misinformation hardened. Catherine felt the issue personally, believing children deserved protection from obsessive scrutiny, and characteristically blunt, insisted that leaving a void allowed others to shape harmful narratives, while Camilla, pragmatic and cautious, questioned whether speaking at all might validate the frenzy. These clashing philosophies created an internal stalemate, and though the palace hoped the noise would fade, it instead grew, transformed, and surged with its own momentum until, by early December, amid freezing winds and a restless public, it became clear that silence was no longer a strategy, but a risk, setting the stage for the moment everything would shift. Gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, like a draft slipping beneath a closed door, the mood within the monarchy shifted, not because of one dramatic event, but due to a steady accumulation of small, unsettling signals revealing how far the rumor machine had traveled. And by December the palace in this fictional account was no longer facing idle chatter, but a narrative powerful enough to distort public perception. The first warning reached William in the form of a digital monitoring briefing, showing how fringe speculation had evolved into a multi-platform cycle of claims, stitched together images, obscure commentary, and distorted timelines presented as hidden truths. Anonymous creators had produced videos that drew thousands of comments from viewers convinced there was something undisclosed. What worried William most were not the claims themselves, but the graphs of attention spikes, especially among older audiences accustomed to traditional royal transparency, who found the Sussex children's quieter introduction to the world unfamiliar and therefore suspicious, leaving them vulnerable to narratives built in shadows. The second warning arrived during a quiet evening at Windsor when Catherine, reviewing materials for an upcoming charity program, received press summaries whose tone felt markedly different. Several newspapers hinted, cautiously but noticeably, at public confusion about the children's royal status, citing opinion pieces and viral posts that questioned the absence of an explicit palace clarification. As Catherine read, her concern deepened, knowing how quickly disinformation rooted itself in uncertainty. and her thoughts returned again and again to the heart of the matter: two innocent children, far removed from the noise, becoming unwilling subjects of a story they never chose. Far from palace politics and the glare of tradition, two young children had somehow become the subjects of twisted interpretations, and Catherine felt the weight of that realization as she set the papers down, understanding that the conversation had drifted far beyond gossip into a matter of responsibility, and provided the third sign, watching the rumors with the same unblinking skepticism that had defined her public life, knowing better than anyone how damaging silence could be when falsehoods spread like unchecked smoke. One cold afternoon she met privately with Charles, placed a printout of a viral post before him, and said simply, "This has gone too far." The post insinuated without evidence or logic that secrecy existed simply because every detail had not been spoon-fed to the public, its tone paranoid rather than malicious, and reminded him that paranoia was contagious, that the children were being treated as theories rather than people. Charles studied the page in troubled silence, recognizing too late that the void had allowed narrative chaos to thrive. Yet the most decisive warning came from an internal report describing how rumors had seeped into everyday conversation during public engagements, with staff overhearing questions from well-wishers about whether the children would appear with the family, whether they were in the line of succession, whether they were even recognized at all. It was no longer fringe speculation, but casual chatter. When William read the report, a quiet alarm moved through him after years spent modernizing the monarchy's digital strategy. He knew how quickly misinformation corroded trust, and the thought of Archie and Lilibet becoming symbols of suspicion unsettled him. Later that evening, he and Catherine spoke in the warm lamplight as winter wind pressed against the windows. As he read aloud the most troubling excerpts, she felt a familiar ache, thinking of her own children and the burden of growing up under scrutiny, and of the unfairness of seeing Archie and Lilibet pulled into a storm they never created. "This can't continue," she whispered, and William answered, "It won't," a quiet promise that marked the beginning of a long-overdue intervention. Meanwhile, tension inside Buckingham Palace grew so palpable that even seasoned staff felt it beneath their feet. Winter pressed heavily over London, cold seeping through stone corridors, but the deeper chill came from the constant closed-door meetings as rumors once dismissed as internet noise became impossible to ignore. The breaking point arrived when a senior communications aide entered Charles's study with a thick folder, setting it down with more force than she intended. Exhaustion etched into her posture. "These are the latest summaries," she said. "They're getting louder, and now they're quoting us, or at least claiming to," and Charles, looking older in the harsh winter light, opened the folder with a quiet dread he could no longer suppress. Despite hoping irrationally that this time it would be different, it wasn't. Headlines suggested that the palace's silence implied complicity, fueling the idea that something had been hidden, while a few foreign outlets went further, implying the monarchy had intentionally avoided speaking about the Sussex children due to uncertainties. Charles closed the folder slowly, his silence speaking volumes, while elsewhere Camilla sat upright during her own briefing. Eyes narrowed as advisors explained that the rumors were not just growing, they were mutating. Some channels insisted the children were being kept off record. Others claimed secret disputes over titles. "Ridiculous," she said sharply, tapping her fingers on the armrest. "The more we feed this, the more it spreads. We must not indulge it." Her advisors exchanged uncertain glances until one ventured that the accusations were now affecting public perception, prompting Camilla to sigh tightly before adding, "Blame the parents for choosing privacy. We shouldn't be forced into explaining what never should have been questioned." Her tone carried both frustration and something colder, a desire to protect the institution while hesitating to re-enter the California branch into the monarchy's public narrative. Across the estate, William paced, having reviewed digital metrics, showing how deeply the conspiracy had penetrated older audiences who still upheld the institution's legitimacy. "It's not just harmful," he told his communications advisor. "It makes us look weak, like we can't protect the truth about our own family." When Catherine joined him, calm but resolute, she stated simply, "We cannot leave them undefended," and William knew she was right, her clarity cut through emotional noise, centering on the innocence of two young siblings far away. And the final voice cornered Charles after a briefing with a tablet displaying a viral post. "They are speaking of Archie and Lilibet as if they're fabricated," she said. "This is no longer harmless speculation. It is a stain on the monarchy's credibility." Charles met her gaze, weary. "If we respond, we break precedent. If we don't and interrupted, we break trust." Silence fell, as tradition no longer offered armor in a world where misinformation moved faster than fact. A crisis meeting was called in a small Windsor council chamber, the kind where discretion was as essential as air, the long oval table reflecting sconce light, while cold mist clung to the windows. William sat with squared shoulders, Catherine beside him, composed but resolute, and took her place across the table, arms folded. Camilla arrived last, blending irritation with caution. Charles opened the meeting. "We face a problem not of wrongdoing, but of misunderstanding." Catherine leaned forward. "Then let us correct the misunderstanding." Camilla's gaze was cool. "We cannot pander to every rumor online. It makes us look fragile." William answered without hesitation. "This isn't every rumor. This is about defending the truth about children and the integrity of the crown." And nodded. "If the public believes we're hiding something, that belief becomes a truth of its own." Debate swayed between tradition and practicality, silence and clarity, preservation and adaptation. Camilla urged restraint. William insisted on action and pushed for decisiveness. Catherine spoke softly but powerfully about protecting the youngest family members regardless of distance. Finally, Charles raised a hand, quieting the room. "Prepare a statement," he said, "a clear one." With that, the course was set, and the statement was scheduled for release just after nightfall. Time to reach both the late evening news in London and the mid-afternoon cycle abroad. The timing of the statement was calculated, aimed to reach both the late evening news in London and the mid-afternoon cycle in the United States, a move that demonstrated the palace's awareness of how global the conversation had become. Even so, no one inside the monarchy could have predicted the scale of the reaction. When the alert appeared on the palace's official channels, it was simple, restrained, yet unmistakably direct. It reaffirmed Archie and Lilibet as legitimate members of the royal lineage, clarified their place within the family, and gently reminded the public that children deserved protection from speculation. The tone was neither emotional nor defensive, but firm, the verbal equivalent of a line drawn across frost-covered ground on an early December morning. Within minutes, broadcasters interrupted their stories. Anchors shifted tone instantly. Networks cut to royal correspondence against the darkened backdrop of Buckingham Palace, streetlights catching tiny specks of winter mist. Reactions poured in. Some commentators called it overdue, others saw it as the first break in the monarchy's traditionally stoic handling of negativity. Most impactful, however, was the response from ordinary viewers, particularly older audiences who had unknowingly absorbed the very rumors the palace was now addressing. Doubts dissolved into quiet reflection. In the digital world, the effect was immediate and explosive. Conspiracy channels scrambled to reinterpret the statement as proof of a cover-up, as expected, but mainstream audiences decisively pushed back, filling social media with praise for the monarchy's intervention. Comment sections, usually chaotic, displayed a rare shift toward reasoned discussion, and for the first time in a long while, the rhythm of misinformation faltered. Yet inside the palace, reactions diverged. Camilla, seated near the fireplace in her private room at Clarence House, read the final draft minutes before release, noting its warmth, its careful framing around the children, softer than she preferred, centered on family unity rather than institutional distance. She closed the document with a quiet exhale. "This will only embolden them," she told her senior aide, referring to Harry and Meghan, the aide uncertain whether to agree or remain silent. Camilla was not angry, but she felt sidelined, her instincts for cautious distance overridden by the younger generation and backed firmly by Anne. At Windsor, William's reaction was the opposite. He watched the announcement live on a small monitor in his office, arms crossed, jaw firm, and as the news cycle began reporting the palace's words, he finally allowed himself to exhale, a rare moment of quiet relief shared with Catherine, who sat beside him, calm and resolute. Across from him, Catherine sat on a gold-embroidered sofa, giving a small nod, not triumph, but relief that the children's names were no longer drifting inside a cloud of online distortion. And in her townhouse at St. James's, reviewed the statement with pragmatic eyes. For her, it was not about sentiment but responsibility, a measured act that reclaimed control by choosing clarity over ambiguity, nudging tradition into unfamiliar territory. Charles read the public's reaction with a mixture of pride and weariness, aware that monarchs rarely choose their storms, only how to face them, and tonight, for the first time in this particular drama, he felt they had confronted it not as individuals with private loyalties, but as a family safeguarding something larger than themselves. As winter clouds drifted across the London sky, the monarchy stood at the threshold of a new chapter, shaped not by secrecy or silence, but by a willingness to protect its youngest members from the shadows of a digital age. In the hours that followed, the atmosphere shifted in ways both subtle and seismic. What began as a simple clarification about two young children evolved into a broader conversation about truth, responsibility, and the limits of royal silence in a world where whispers travel faster than facts. Across Britain, morning papers arrived with bold headlines interpreting the move as a turning point. Some called it protection, others a rare moment of transparency, and even usually critical commentators acknowledged that the message struck a chord. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was definitive, offering clarity people did not know they needed. In California, Harry and Meghan read the statement with mixed emotions. It was neither apology nor embrace, nor did it erase the past. Yet it accomplished something vital. It solidified their children's place in the royal story. Meghan, sensitive to distorted narratives of motherhood, felt a quiet vindication, while Harry recognized the palace's tone affirmed his long-held belief that children should be shielded from battles they never chose. Inside the royal household, reactions reflected long-standing divisions. William tracked global response, aware that the moment was about more than Archie and Lilibet, about whether the monarchy could maintain trust in a digital era where misinformation spreads like frost across a windowpane. Catherine carried the emotional aftermath quietly, sensing the maternal imperative to protect children under relentless scrutiny and feeling a rare alignment with the institution's actions. And, characteristically direct, told aides that the response had been clear, necessary, and overdue, seeing it as a corrective measure rather than capitulation. And she admired William and Catherine for insisting on clarity, even when it challenged tradition. Camilla, however, experienced the fallout differently. The narrative implied that the younger generation, William, Catherine, and had championed the decision, leaving her on the outside of a moment she had hoped to guide. And the public quickly cast her as the hesitant figure, more concerned with image than empathy, a shadow she recognized instantly. As evening settled over London, an unusual quiet descended on the palace. The stillness that follows a storm, where nothing is fully resolved, but everything feels momentarily suspended. The world had heard the monarchy speak, perhaps more plainly than in years, and the effects rippled across continents, calming some noise while raising deeper questions the family would eventually need to face about privacy, transparency, and the future of royal children growing up in a digital world that rarely forgives mystery. Reflecting on something far larger than royal titles, timelines, or genealogy, what began as a swirl of rumor about Archie and Lilibet transformed into a lesson few expect from a centuries-old institution. How easily narratives take root when silence leaves empty space, and how quickly children become collateral in adult battles they never chose. In the digital age, the lack of public appearances became a stage for strangers to project theory after theory. Adjusted photographs became supposed evidence of concealment, and silence, whether respectful or strategic, became a canvas for conclusions that never belonged to two very young children. This moment highlights a tension familiar to anyone living in a world where information spreads faster than understanding. The human instinct to fill gaps, to seek meaning where none exists, even if imagination invents it. For many, this curiosity is not malicious. It comes from habit, from years of observing royal rituals, suddenly disrupted. Yet good intentions cannot shield anyone, especially children, from the harm of unchecked speculation. What stands out is the senior royal's insistence on clarity. William, who long understood how misinformation corrodes public trust, recognized the danger of letting imagination flourish where facts should stand. Catherine, seeing motherhood as a moral responsibility beyond her own children, understood that a quiet line had been crossed, and, ever direct and perceptive, reminded the family that silence is not always dignity, but sometimes negligence disguised as tradition. Even Charles, loyal to the old ways of restraint, acknowledged that some storms do not pass simply because they are ignored, demonstrating that leadership is not rigidity, but adaptation. The monarchy's decision to speak was not an act of aggression or defense, nor a choice between California and London. At its core, it was an effort to protect two young children from narratives they might one day encounter without context. As viewers, we are reminded that the loudest voices are not always the truest, and the most dramatic claims are rarely the most meaningful. In a world overflowing with commentary, pausing to ask whether a story honors the humanity of those involved, especially the youngest, is a rare wisdom. Children deserve space to grow, free from conspiracies, shielded from obsession, and protected from narratives constructed by strangers who will never know them. As winter deepens across the United Kingdom, the palace's message continues to echo beyond its marble halls, a reminder that truth, spoken softly but clearly, can cut through even the thickest fog of speculation. And as the next chapter of the royal family unfolds, one thing is certain. The most enduring legacy any institution can leave is not found in crowns, titles, or ceremonies, but in the way it chooses to protect those too young to protect themselves.